Explain that process for me of how you went through and how you managed to trust yourself and listen to your intuition.
That's a really good question. So, fortunately, around the time I hired my personal coach and started my healing journey in earnest, I was invited to be part of an intuition group, which that is what I call serendipity because it was something I didn't know that I even needed. I knew I had intuition, but I was always ignoring it. But I was part of that. I'm still part of that group. But for the first few years, being a part of it, I became so connected to my intuition to the point where even now, if I'm driving down the street and my intuition is like, no, turn down this road, like I will do it. I will not question. I'm like, okay, I'm getting the sign. I'm just doing it. So that definitely helped with my self-trust. But my experience when I quit corporate America, like the intuition was there for sure, because I kept getting these hits and all the signs were there. But I still had that self-doubt, like, I don't know if I can do it. Like, I knew I was brave, but I'm like, am I that brave? And I remember I made the decision. I was like, I want to leave. But every time I thought about it, I would just go straight into an anxiety attack. So I finally decided, I was like, I'm leaving, but I'm not leaving until I can get to the point where I can think about leaving and not have an anxiety spiral. And it took me 3 months, but this is what I did in that 3 months. I was like, what does the version of me look like like the person who quits their job is bold enough to quit their corporate America job cold turkey and start their own business? How does she make decisions? How does she act? How does she show up in the world?
So, welcome back to the Passionate Pioneer podcast. You know me, I am the Passionate Pioneer. This podcast is your connection into spiritual awakening experiences and, of course, the path to joyful living, which I'm all about. So, today I'm joined by Angie Hawkins. Hi, Angie.
Hi, Beth. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And thanks for joining us today. For people who don't know you, Angie, would you mind giving us a quick introduction before we dive into your story?
Sure. I'm Angie. I'm the inner glow coach, and I help women stop playing at 80% and glow up into the most abundant version of themselves.
Oh, I love that. You talk a lot about joy, don't you? And of course, I am
Yes.
all about joy. I've got the Passionista movement, which is a joy community.
Yeah.
And
I think
so,
that's so important. Yeah, because
oh, love it.
I used to live my life for other people. And the first thing I started doing when I started living life for myself was intentionally doing things that bring me joy. So now I have my whole mission, well, for myself and my clients and everyone I can tell, because I'm just as passionate as you, is do at least one thing a day that brings you joy. Because being an adult doesn't have to be all responsibilities and adulting. Like you can be an adult and have fun.
Well, I think most women are starving of joy. That's my
Oh, yeah.
experience.
I know. And it's so simple, right? Because I was just having a conversation with a friend the other day because I was like, because I live in Hawaii. So usually my one thing a day is surfing. But if I don't have time, most songs are only like 3 minutes long. So at the very bare minimum, I will throw on a song and dance for 3 minutes. And I'm like, it can be as simple as that.
I love that. I love that because that's my gym. Because people say, "Oh, just get to the gym and work out," but I'm not. I'm just not the gym person. I never have been.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm the same. The music and dancing is my workout
Yeah.
and my joy
Like,
moments.
yeah, moving your body is exercise because I'm all about like there's no one way to exercise because a lot of people think you have to lift weights, you have to run. Yeah, those are effective and efficient, but if you don't like doing them, you're not going to stick to them. So, yeah, do the things that bring you joy.
Very good. Excellent. So you live in Hawaii. So let's go back to the beginning of your story then. So let's go back
Yes.
to the very beginning and describe the moment when you realized, there's something missing for me on the inside. And what was that like for you?
Well, I think that moment really happened in my childhood because I had a wild imagination. I was a dreamer. When I was around 6 years old, I had Barbies, and one of my Barbies was a Hawaii Barbie. And she had hair down to her butt, which that started my fascination with Hawaii because I just found that so fascinating. And anytime I would see something about Hawaii, the women just had really long, beautiful hair. And I loved that. And I also had a red Barbie Ferrari convertible. So from a very young age, I always wanted to move to Hawaii and drive a red convertible. But my parents were so realistic. They were like, well, you have to make a lot of money, like it's too far away. Car insurance is too much on convertibles. And I'm like 6 years old. Do you know what I mean? So, like, they were already raining on my parade. And I just remember from a very young age, like feeling like something more was available, but yet at the same time feeling that it wasn't available for me.
Yeah, parents like to do that, don't they? They like to be realistic, right?
And on one hand, I appreciate it because it was grounded in sensibility, but on the other hand, I didn't believe things were possible for me. So that left me stuck in many ways.
Yeah, it's the reality meets the realistic meets the idealistic, right?
Yeah,
And when
exactly.
you're children, you have an children are the best um what's the word I'm looking for? Examples of
Oh,
joy and
I
hope
know.
and dreaming and playfulness, because that's what they're all about.
I know. I say that all the time because that's the whole theory behind the inner glow. Because we're born with this light inside of us. You see little kids, they're running around, they're screaming, they're extremely creative. They will say anything, they will do anything. But then as you go through life, like either family, school, society, whatever, are like, you should not do this, you should not do that. So then we start dimming that light inside of us. So it's not about changing who you are or fixing anything. It's just about rekindling that light. And that's why it's so important to do one thing a day that brings you joy, because that's rekindling that light inside of you, because that's who you really are.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, joy is not something, it's not a reward for ticking off your to-do list. It's, where are you on your schedule? Where are you in the calendar? Because you're pleasing everybody else.
Yeah,
Where are you? Right?
exactly.
So, okay, so you had that from childhood. And then
Yes.
as an adult, obviously you go into adulthood and you've got all of the coats on from the peers and the teachers and the parents and the heavy conditioning. So when was the
Yeah.
moment where you started to realize, oh, I need to take off some of these coats?
Yeah, and just to add a little bit onto the dynamic before I get to that moment,
Mm.
also growing up, there's so many dynamics in my household, but I think the best way to summarize it is both of my parents were extremely emotionally unavailable. So I also grew up with the belief that I didn't deserve to be loved because as an adult, I can understand why they were the way they were. But as a child, you don't have those resources. You just don't have that life experience to be able to interpret the situation. So I turned it in on myself and I was like, I don't deserve to be loved. So I carried that belief through my life. So again, I just had this belief that like these things weren't available to me. And not only that, I truly didn't believe that I was worthy of the things that I wanted. So I was just trudging through life, doing all the things that you're quote unquote supposed to do. Like I went to college. My career started in corporate America because that's what you're supposed to do, have a stable job with benefits. And, I was doing all of the things. And I got to a point in my corporate career, I was making really good money. And I bought the red convertible and I had all these things, but I was miserable inside. And like, and again, I just didn't really see anything else that was available. So I just thought that's just how life is. But the turning point came in 2017 when my dad passed away because, well, first of all, my boyfriend had broken up with me right before he passed away. So I had two big losses at the same time. And I was plummeted into profound grief. And through this grief, I just really started thinking about I just was having profound thoughts about the meaning of life, like why are we here? And also, my dad was 63. So that was a reminder to me life is too short to not do what you want to do. Because I had always been telling myself, because I remember the two main things that I thought about during this time. I had always said to myself in my head, one day I want to move to Hawaii, and one day I want to write a book. And so I started thinking about those things, and I'm like, I may not be here tomorrow. And it really had me thinking that I would rather live my life in a way that I regret doing something because I don't want to die with a regret of not doing something. So in early 2018, I was like, I'm going to move to Hawaii and write a book. Like there was no other option available to me. I would like, and at the time I didn't have the money or resources, but I was like, I was so dead set on that decision. I was like, I'm going to figure it out. And it truly felt at that time that it actually was available to me. That was the first time in my life that I truly took agency over my life to move towards something that I thought would make me happy. But I will say this, it was well intentioned that I was trying to up level and have a better life, but it wasn't well intentioned in the sense that I was still looking for something outside of myself to be the thing that made me feel better.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? We have to do
Yeah.
the inner work.
Yes. So
You
that
can't just
was
keep running away from things because the things follow you, right? You have to do the inner work.
Well, so I learned the hard way because I moved to Hawaii and, yeah, it's like the weather is definitely better. Like it's different, like the environment's different, but I was living the exact same life. And it was like, oh, I'm still not happy. And so that's when I decided that something needed to change. But when I first moved here, it was just like for the first 2 years that I lived here, it was just life really tested me because it was like thing after thing after thing. Because I moved here in 2018, so it was before remote work was the trendy thing to do. But I was really fortunate because my job allowed me to move and work remote. But it was at a time there was a huge management shakeup at work. So the first year that I lived here, I lived in constant fear of losing my job. Also, I bought a new condo right away because I wanted to prove like how all in and committed I was to my decision. But a month after I closed on my condo, a shared building pipe backflowed into my bathroom sink and I wasn't home. So I had only lived here for like 2 months. My entire condo flooded. So I'm already struggling with fitting in and getting adjusted, and my entire condo flooded. And another thing that happened immediately, I had a really hard time making friends, which and I moved here from Chicago. Like in Chicago, I never had that issue. So it was really stressful for me, especially because the only people I knew were thousands of miles away. So
Mm.
I really, I don't know, I got distracted by doing the inner work because I was just in survival mode for basically 2 full years.
Yeah, it's well, people don't realize that, when you move to another country, you've got to start again. You literally start again.
Yeah.
And even though Hawaii is connected to the
No,
States, it's
I, I like that you mentioned that because that's some, most people are like, well, it's still part of the US. But for
mm-mm.
me, it was like moving to a different country because the culture's totally different. Like I'm a minority here. So it felt like moving to a different country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that because I've lived in the Cayman Islands, I've lived in
Okay.
Spain, and now I'm in Italy. So I totally know. My friends are all over the world, um,
Yeah.
from when I've traveled. And I understand. And let me tell you something, Angie, how brave it is to move to another country. And if you can survive that, you can survive
Yeah.
anything because it really is a huge transition. Sometimes, even for me, I didn't speak the language when I moved to Spain.
Uh,
Italy, I had to learn new languages.
yeah. Well, even here,
Mhm.
so there's the Hawaiian language, and people don't speak Hawaiian fluently, but there's a third official language in the state. It's called Hawaiian Pidgin. Um, which is like it's kind of like an English hybrid. So there are some English words mixed into it. It's kind of like, you know how Spanglish is a mix of Spanish and
Right.
English.
Yeah.
Hawaiian Pidgin is kind of a mix of English and Hawaiian slang words.
Right.
So it's still kind of hard to understand sometimes.
Is that like aloha?
No, that's actually Hawaiian.
That is
Yeah.
Hawaiian. Okay.
Yeah.
It
Like
does
I'll
sound a
give you,
little bit like hello, doesn't it? Right.
yeah, but I'll give you an example. There's a term in Hawaiian Pidgin, it's called decline, but it kind of means whatever. So people will use decline all of the time, and you kind of have to decipher what it means within the context of what they're saying. So that was the most confusing to me because I'm like, what are you talking about?
They've got similar expressions in Italy, actually.
Okay.
There's an expression, it's just a die. And die just means it can mean, oh, come on, or die, die, oh, give it a rest, or die,
Okay.
die, 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 die. Come on, let's go, let's go. I mean,
Okay, so yeah, it is similar. So you
similar,
have to
right?
figure it out.
It's the context, right,
Yeah.
of the sentence. So yeah, that's quite funny. Um, so did something, so obviously you made the choice to move to Hawaii, and that's a huge life transition. And that's
Yeah.
because of that big trauma point or the two big trauma points that you had. Do you think that that is the universe's way of redirecting you?
Oh, I absolutely think that. And like things have happened since then, but that was the first time in my life that I was really rejecting the call because again, like I had wanted to move to Hawaii since I was 6. I mentioned to you, I think it was before we started recording, as an adult, I had a friend who lived here for like 5 or 6 years, and I would visit her every year. And every year I was like, I'm going to move to Hawaii. I'm going to move to Hawaii. And then she moved away. So then I was like, oops, now I would always have excuses like, oop, now I can't move there because she moved away. And I truly believe that if you are not on your life's purpose and path, the universe will absolutely give you a huge kick in the butt to put you on that path. So yeah, I needed the kick in the butt.
So it's quite, I mean, you know, most of the women I speak to have had some type of trauma point that,
Yeah.
especially Gen Xers, because we've always done the steady work.
Yeah.
We've we've followed all the rules until we've
Yep.
said, "Oh God, that's enough. I can't follow the rules anymore." Or something happens, a
Yeah.
tragedy, or a death, or something like COVID was a huge thing for globally.
Yeah.
You know, but your trauma points and mine came before that, a long time before that. Um, but those trauma points are a big redirection, and I think that it's it's really sad that that has to happen, that the universe has to do that, has to make it so tragic for us. But you have to have that wake up call, don't you?
Yeah, well, and I had the second one. I can think of like three major points in my life where I had like a traumatic wake up call that forced me on a completely different path. And then the second one happened during COVID because I had that period of I had 2 years of life just handing me shit. And again, I had very low self-worth, even though I had moved to Hawaii, and that did give me a boost of confidence because I was like, oh, I can do hard things and I do have more courage than I thought. But with life just keep handing me shit, I was like, I don't know how much I can take anymore. And I just had a straw that broke the camel's back moment because COVID was stressful enough, right? So
Well,
that started exacerbating all these other issues I was having. And then there was an end of a romantic relationship during COVID, which in isolation, I don't think would have been that big of a deal. But it was another turning point where it was like, I just had this moment. And I think we all have these moments where I was like, I can't take this anymore. Like, when is this going to end? I can't do this. But layered on top of that, which was like the dangerous part, was I just had this sheer feeling of hopelessness because if I looked in the rearview mirror, it's like nothing has been going well. I tried to do this thing to make myself happier. That didn't work out because now I have all these extra stresses on top of the stresses I was already having. And then, of course, it just felt never ending. And that there was so much uncertainty with that. And I had a total emotional breakdown and I intentionally overdosed on my anxiety medication. I took the entire bottle. So that was my second turning point because I
right.
was just like in this emotional spiral and I didn't know how to get out and I wasn't really doing anything to get out. And that's what I tried to do to get out. But then life had something else in store because what ended up happening, I was unconscious for a day and a half in my home, but I somehow managed to text a friend, which I was blacked out, but I believe that my heart wanted something different than my mind. So I think there was a part of me that wanted to live. So I somehow managed to reach out to a friend. She took me to the hospital. I spent another day and a half in the hospital. And then when I came home, I called a friend. I told her everything that happened. And she said to me, "It's not your time." And that was so profound to me because prior to that moment, I was in this total victim mentality. I was like, life is happening to me. This is just how it is. And I'm helpless against it. But when she said that, I truly believed that I had a purpose because I did survive. I didn't know what it was, but like those words were just enough for me to be like, okay, the way I've been living my life has not been working. I want to live my life in a different way, and I'm accountable for making those changes. And it was just like this mindset shift in that instant. And that's when I call it my healing journey in earnest because prior to then, it was always like these half-hearted attempts, and nothing was really working, and I didn't really know what to do about it. But I was like, I invested in myself. I hired a coach and I made myself accountable for doing the work and healing for real at that time.
That's a great story. And you know what? I think that, most women that I speak to, probably the same for you, but if you're not self-aware or the journey of an entrepreneur, let's say, let's start there,
Yeah.
being a business owner, where you're accountable for everything and yourself. One of the
Yeah.
biggest lessons I learned was I didn't realize how much conditioning I got and how much inner work I had to do. And I
Yeah.
think that took me. Well, it's a never-ending story because next level, next devil, right?
Oh,
You
yeah. I
you
use
take
that
off
term all the time.
you take off one layer and then there's a next one, right?
Yeah.
Just never ending. And it's the layers of conditioning over, generations. And before, it's your mothers, your grandmothers, your great
Yeah.
grandmothers. It was all piled onto you, right? And I think as women, we hold heavy burdens from our ancestors, especially for women,
Yeah.
because women, this is why I coach women and mentor women, and teach. And my podcast is for women. It's all about women. And it's not because it's just because it's been masculine all the way for such a long time, Angie.
Yeah.
Right.
No, totally agree.
And I think that, men just seem to have had an easier time, like for work, and what you're saying about Hawaii and moving. And I think that, men just seem to have an easier time with life.
No, I totally agree, especially because my background is in corporate America. And also,
Right.
I worked in IT, which is very male dominated. And I felt like all you had to do as a man, all you had to do was be part of the man's club and like you would get promoted, you would get the pay raises or whatever. And I was always like struggling and hustling just to be on the same level.
It's crazy, right? It's so
Yeah.
true. It's so true. They do have an easy life. So, the fact that you've put yourself into you've moved yourself to another country, you've bought an apartment, so you told the universe, okay, I'm serious.
Yeah, that was
I'm
like
here.
I made that a condition for myself because I'm like if I'm doing it, I'm all in and totally committed. So for me, that was a way to prove I was committed because I was like, that's a long-term commitment.
Yeah. I did the same in Italy. People said, "Oh, are you
Yeah.
renting?" I said, "No, I bought it."
Yeah. See, and I think that's like how you show up. You're like telling the universe, I am committed to this decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you've gone through, see, the trauma points we understand are turning points, aren't they? Like spiritual turning points, if you like, or
Yeah.
redirections. And then you had all of this shit happen. And
Yeah.
I bet at that point you're thinking, hang on a minute, right? Is the universe having a big laugh here at my expense? Right?
Well, actually, after the overdose, it was like, and I know this is like such a trendy word, but I did truly wake up because, once you see things, you can't unsee them.
That's
And
right.
I
You
was,
can't put it back in the box when you
yeah, and I was truly awake to how I had been living. Because that, when I was in the victim mentality, that's how I thought. I was like, the universe hates me. Like I grew up in a religious family. We were Catholic, but I got to the point where I was like, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in a higher power, because if there is a God, there's no way life would be this hard. But then when I moved out of the victim mindset, I started realizing, oh, I was the cause of all of my problems.
That's hilarious because I went through the same stage. That's part of my story
Yeah.
too. Bad experience at church. We stopped going to church. I became an atheist for a year. I think it wasn't a great experience because there was just nothing. Life became pointless. And then
Yeah.
I went on my own, started again on my spiritual journey. So lots of similarities in many of the stories when I speak to women like
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
It's, it,
definitely.
it,
Yeah.
it's great. So, okay, so how did you once you were ready for this, you came out of this change then. Um what were the tools that helped you? Because you said once you can't put the information back in the box once you know. So what were those
Yeah.
tools that got you out of that darkness, that dark the dark night of the soul we call it, right? Or
Yeah,
one.
I did go through a dark night of the soul for sure, and that's like a whole separate topic. But in the work that I did with my coach, it was really funny because he called it learning how to be a functional adult, which kind of sounds ridiculous, right? Because it's like,
No,
I am
not at
an
all.
adult. What do you mean I don't know how to be an adult? But like we really are stuck in these patterns from our childhood and teenage years, and they don't serve us as adults. So the work I did with him, I learned how to be a functional adult. And what really made the change was massive action. I had no boundaries. So I had to learn how to set boundaries. I had to learn how to respect myself. It was basically like practicing, even though I didn't really believe it initially, it was practicing self-worth, practicing self-trust in day-to-day life. And eventually, and I started from rock bottom, so the process did take a few years, but I eventually got to this point, and this is where the term inner glow came from. I was so like I believed in myself. I had so much self-trust and so much self-love that it just felt like this warm energy radiating out of my chest. And I was like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to love yourself. And that's what I call the inner glow, because you're literally radiating outside of yourself, and the people around you can feel it. Like I had so many people tell me, like, you're so much happier, like you're glowing, like people can feel it and see it. And but it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns, because my third universe kicking me in the ass was because I had spent decades living for things outside of myself, and that brought me to my corporate America job. I was, realizing my true identity and who I really was and what I wanted to be doing and what brought me joy. And I was like, oh my God, I hate working in corporate America. This is killing my soul.
Hi, I just wanted to pop on here just to say thank you so much for being here, watching this video and supporting my channel. It is my honor to bring you these stories from these incredible women who are passionate about their lives and have alchemized their spiritual awakening journeys from service to self to service to others. If you would like to be part of my Passionista community, just grab a free copy of my workbook, which you'll find a link below. It's called Your Passionista Journey Starts Here. And start making those small changes to your life that you need right now. Thank you again for being here. Love you to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know when all the new weekly episodes are live. Thanks again, Passionista. Much love and joy. Now let's get back to the interview.
This is not who I am. But the money was good, right? So I was like, well, I'm not quitting. That would be ridiculous. So I kept working in corporate America. And then I got transferred to a team, and my manager was a raging B word. And I normally wouldn't even use that word to describe females because I think it's so disrespectful, but she was that in every sense of the word. And I just had this epiphany. I was like, this is the universe because I had wanted to do inner glow coaching and I had started doing some local workshops and stuff. So I was kind of doing stuff on the side, but I was too scared to go all in because I couldn't give up my corporate paycheck and benefits. But when I got transferred to that team and she made my life a living hell, I just knew instantly. I was like, this is the universe kicking me in the butt and making me do it. Yeah. So I quit my
You're
job.
still
I
there.
started my own business. Yeah.
Why are you still there, Angie? Did you not learn
Yeah.
that lesson?
And it was crazy because I went through like a few month period where I was very aware of the overall sign, but I was like, nope, I'm not leaving. And I'm not exaggerating. Almost every single day, there was a sign or some kind of punch in the face, and I was still trying to ignore it.
I totally this story resonates with me, but I literally said no, but I had a very high paying job, and it was corporate, and I just
So you get it.
but
Yeah.
I lived in paradise. I mean, I lived in the Caribbean, so it was a
Oh,
blessing.
yeah.
But I just couldn't do it. My soul, there was something missing,
That's how I
and
felt. It's
that was
like, and even now, I haven't reached my corporate income yet. But I actually, it's funny, old coworker of mine just called me yesterday to catch up. And he said, he was like, you sound so much happier. And that just kind of reinforced that my happiness is way more important than my income. Like, yeah, my goal is to get to my corporate income and more, but my happiness is more important than that.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. If I'd wanted just the money, we could have stayed where we were.
Oh,
If we
exactly.
just
Yeah.
wanted the money, but it isn't. It's following the joy, and in fact, will the money will replace your corporate salary eventually. I can tell you, I
Yeah. And I
guarantee.
truly believe that.
Yeah. Um, but it just takes time and patience to build a business. And that's the other thing you don't realize when you start a business is how long it actually takes. Because there's no such thing as overnight success, despite what
Yeah.
social media will tell you.
Well, the
You
biggest
know,
lesson I learned, which, because I was expecting some things, right? But the biggest lesson I learned is a corporate America mindset and an entrepreneur mindset are totally different things. Totally. So I was like, that was a rude awakening, but and I still struggle with it sometimes, but yeah, it
yeah,
takes time.
yeah. And that was the same as you, Angie. The biggest lessons I learned was yes, how to be an entrepreneur, which is completely different. But you've got to have because in the corporate America, you've got an employee mindset, and then
Oh,
you've got to
yeah.
have the CEO mindset. But also, you talked about that woman, that B
Yeah.
word. Um, and unfortunately, you see, this is where we've got that heavy masculine energy we've had for so long. And, there's a lot of women in the corporate industries that have to be in their masculine energy to be in that environment. And I know it's changing slightly. It is changing a little bit. I did notice, but I
Yeah.
do notice that in the entrepreneur space, um, with women that have left corporate America, lawyers, judges, accountants, IT specialists, from every industry, and gone
Yeah.
on to make their own business. They are empowering other women, and they've stepped into their feminine. Okay, you've got to, excuse me, still doing the masculine, haven't you? Because the masculine energy is the action taking. You've got to do
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
But the feminine side is the creativity and it's the supporting and it's the well done, let's go together, right? It's that
Yeah.
beautiful,
Like cheerleading. Yeah. I know
yeah,
exactly what you're saying.
right. It's that
Yeah.
type of energy, right?
So, yeah, so there were like difficult, unexpected things, but there was also serendipity in becoming an entrepreneur because to your point, And I actually like the masculine side of me because, yeah, that's the side that gets shit done. But I'm also able to be more creative and like there's just more flow to my day than before. And yeah, and about my former manager, like the funny thing is, as miserable as I was, like not only was it affecting my mental health, my physical health started to get really bad. I called it a stress hump. I don't even know what it was. I was getting a hump on my forehead. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to get out of here because I don't know what's going on. I even tried, usually when you Google things, it's like you're dying, cancer, whatever. I couldn't even find what it was. So that's like how obscure the
Right.
stress hump was. But anyway, my point is, like, I wasn't even mad at her because, first of all, I needed that kick in the butt from the universe. But also, I completely understood that she was just playing the corporate game and doing what she needed to do to survive
Yeah.
because she's not the kind of person that's going to leave and start her own business. So she has to adapt to that world and
Yeah.
survive. So I get
And
it.
that's really sad, isn't it? But it's good that you to recognize, okay, so we understand she stepped into the masculine because she was in that masculine world, the boys' club.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you've got to be in that. And that's what I didn't like, to be honest, in
Same.
a lot of it,
Because it's
And
going against who we are.
yeah, absolutely. And I do agree, we need that balance, don't we? We need the masculine
Oh,
and the
yeah.
feminine. But I've noticed being an entrepreneur, I've got all that time for myself. I've got
Yeah.
time to be creative. I've got time to do the things I want. And the bad days aren't so bad anymore. If I have a bad day, like I've got a headache or I'm not feeling my 100%, I reschedule. My time is my own.
Yeah.
I can reschedule client meetings, not a problem. You know, I can go on vacation when I don't have to ask the boss. To ask myself, do you want to go on vacation, Beth? Okay, then let's go. When would you like to go? I don't know. When do you think? It's all those little things, isn't it, Angie, that really,
Yeah, but it's so liberating because on one hand, you do have more responsibility, but on the other hand, yeah, and it sounds so ironic, but and you have more freedom with that
yeah,
responsibility.
yeah, it's true. It's difficult to explain.
It
And it's a
is.
very bold move. It's a bold move to move to another country. It's also a bold move to be an entrepreneur as well and do those things together, which you and I have both done. And that takes some cojones, I can tell you.
It does. And again, but it's also confirmation that I'm on my life's path
Right?
because when I moved to Hawaii, because I consider myself courageous now. But at the time I moved to Hawaii, I really wasn't because even now I catch myself in hindsight thinking, I can't believe I did that. But it totally changed the trajectory of my life for the better because it led me, because if I was still in Chicago, would I be an entrepreneur? Probably not. So like all these things really did set me on my life path.
Yeah. Yeah, a friend said the other day, I'm so proud of you, Beth. And I was like, oh gosh,
Oh,
that's really nice to hear because people don't say that
yeah.
very often. But I do look in the mirror often and I say,
Yeah.
you're doing a great job, Beth. I love you and I'm so proud of you, right? I do that. One of my
I
little
do that
affirmation
too.
things, right? But
And it feels good, right? Because I
yeah,
never used to be the kind of person, because even when I moved to Hawaii, like in my mind, I was doing it like I felt like I had to, because that's like I'm desperate to be happy. I have to do something. But now it's like, no, I'm doing things because I'm capable and I'm smart and I'm proud of myself for doing it.
right. Uh, but I'm over here applauding, Angie. You've, you had me at a low, right? So tell me about this. What was the most difficult thing about following that intuition? Because most we talked about the conditioning, and the conditioning
Yeah,
is also not trusting yourself and not trusting your own voice. Trust everybody else that's speaking
yeah.
and not yourself. So how difficult, or explain that process for me of how you went through and how you managed to trust yourself and listen to your intuition.
That's a really good question. So, fortunately, around the time I hired my personal coach and started my healing journey in earnest, I was invited to be part of an intuition group, which That is what I call serendipity because it was something I didn't know that I even needed. I knew I had intuition, but I was always ignoring it. But I was part of I'm still part of that group. But for the first few years being a part of it, I became so connected to my intuition to the point where even now, if I'm driving down the street and my intuition is like, no, turn down this road, like I will do it. I will not question. I'm like, okay, I'm getting the sign. I'm just doing it. So that definitely helped with my self-trust. But my experience when I quit corporate America, like the intuition was there for sure, because I kept getting these hits and all the signs were there. But I still had that self-doubt, like, I don't know if I can do it. Like, I knew I was brave, but I'm like, am I that brave? And I remember I made the decision. I was like, I want to leave. But every time I thought about it, I would just go straight into an anxiety attack. So I finally decided, I was like, I'm leaving, but I'm not leaving until I can get to the point where I can think about leaving and not have an anxiety spiral. And it took me 3 months, but this is what I did in that 3 months. I was like, what does the version of me look like like the person who quits their job is bold enough to quit their corporate America job cold turkey and start their own business? How does she make decisions? How does she act? How does she show up in the world? And again, when you put that energy out to the universe, it responds because I was tested. Like, I'll give you one example. I went on this surf trip to Indonesia, and I was on this one island, and I had planned the second half of the trip in the other island. So, how I had planned on getting there, I booked a flight to the other island. Well, and this is Indonesia. It's a third world country. The inter island flights, it's not like other parts of the world where it's like very efficient or whatever. So a few days before my flight, they emailed me and they're like, we rescheduled your flight, but they rescheduled it to a day that didn't work for me because I was like, no, I need to be on this other island at a different time. And so this doesn't work for me. So I was like, no problem. I'll just change the flight. Well, it was in the aftermath of Ramadan. So I'm not even exaggerating. There were no flights anywhere for like this 4 day block. So air travel was like not even a possibility. So I'm in Indonesia, which you can't just Google transportation options in Indonesia, right? So I had to figure out how to get from one island to another island without an airplane. Within 2 hours, I figured out this trip and it took 12 hours and it was like car, ferry, car, ferry, car, ferry. And it took 12 hours to get there. But I did it because the entire time I was like, what does the kind of person who quits their job in corporate America and starts their own business, what would she do? And so it just having that mindset and actually like following through with these tests from the universe, it made me believe in myself because it's like it just reinforced. I didn't totally believe it, but I was proving to myself like I just did it. I'm doing these things. Like I believe in myself. Like I don't have all the answers, but I'll figure it out. So in that 3 months, I developed that fierce self-trust. Like I don't have all the answers, but I'll figure it out. And that's when I quit my job.
That's an amazing story. What
Yeah.
would what would the future me do, right? What would
Yeah.
the
And I
entrepreneur
and I
me do?
still
I
do
love
that.
that.
Yeah.
I love that story. That's a brilliant strategy to use before
Yeah.
you become. So for our listeners out there, if you want to do that, that's a brilliant strategy to do because that's exactly what it's like as an entrepreneur. We pivot all the time. We
Yeah.
create new projects. Something doesn't work. So we have to change something, or it's not what we thought. Sometimes it's better, sometimes not so much, but
Yeah.
but it's constantly changing, right? And um, you've got to just be adaptable and get used to that, right? And be flexible,
Yeah. And I mean, I even do that identity work with all my clients because it's like taking act as if on a totally different level.
right?
Like, no, you are that person. Just do
And
it.
and you've just got to remember that life is an experience, right? You are a soul having a human experience, right?
Yeah.
And so if you look at it, we've got a big hang up, haven't we, in society about success and failure. And I don't really like those words because
I don't either.
I don't think anything's a failure really. You just if it doesn't work, that's the universe redirecting you a different way.
Yeah. Well, so
Or
that's another thing about being an entrepreneur. It's really taught me growth mindset.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that fixed and
Yeah.
growth, right? And
Yeah.
employee CEO, right? Yes, yes. So how have your relationships and your daily life and overall well-being since you've made these major changes and leaps forward as a entrepreneur?
Yeah. So there have been parts of my journey that have been lonely because it's like some people don't understand it. Some people I can't relate to. But on the other hand, I meet other entrepreneurs. So I've developed this network of people who are so loving and supportive. So
Yeah.
in a way, it's also up-leveled the people I'm surrounded with.
I think that's one of the nicest things I've seen about this industry, the
Yeah.
wellness industry in general. Women are supporting each other, entrepreneurs are supporting each other now.
Yeah. Well, and
And
especially because like you and I do similar things,
yeah.
but we don't have to compete against each other because we're like unique in our own right. So we can still collaborate and not compete against each other.
And and I think you feel the same way, is that you want to be a living example for the women coming up
Yeah.
behind us,
Yeah. We need to
right? So
support each other. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, absolutely. So before I ask you some final questions, I want to talk about your book.
Yes, because we didn't even touch on that yet.
That's what I would like to talk about, Angie. So let's discuss the book. So Running in Slippers, which I think is
Yes.
a hilarious title.
Yeah, and sometimes I forget to explain the title, so I'll just
Yeah,
explain that
yeah,
immediately.
please.
Well, first of all, the actual story of how it came about is the introduction of the book, so I won't give that away. But in general, what it means is I live in Hawaii and we call flip-flop slippers. So it really means running in flip-flops. And running in flip-flops is a metaphor for life because both can be adventurous, playful, and fun, and they can also be painful, dangerous, and scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great. It's a great metaphor, right?
Yeah.
So obviously you had this idea for the book.
Yes. So, yeah, and actually it does intertwine with some of the things I've already said because I was an avid writer as a child. I rekindled that passion as an adult, and I had this idea that I wanted to write a book and but I didn't know what I wanted to write a book about. But in the period after my dad passed away, we live in a just get over it society. So after
Oh,
like 2 months,
yeah.
people just expected me to be over it.
Yeah.
So I felt like I just had to pretend that everything was fine when it wasn't. So there was just this huge gap between how I was feeling and what I was seeing in the world. So for example, you go on Instagram, everyone's posting their highlight reels and how perfect their life
Oh
is.
my God.
And yeah,
So
exactly.
it's false, so false, right?
Yeah, so started having these really deep thoughts. I was like, why aren't we talking about the shitty things that happen to us? So my idea for the book, I was like, I could write a memoir about my life and instead of focusing on the good things, like focus on the struggles and challenges. But again, at that time, I was not confident. I was not courageous. So the thought of writing a vulnerable book was way too scary. And again, it's like, I'll do it one day. Like I always have put it on the back burner. Like I can't do it. It's too scary. But then after my overdose, actually, it was my very first conversation with my coach because he was like, if you could do anything and didn't have to worry about money, what would you do? And the very first thing that came to my mind was the book. And in those initial days, because I knew coaching with him would take time. But in those initial days, my only goal was to make it through the day. Like that's how bad I was struggling. So I needed some kind of purpose to get me through the day. So that's when I decided I was like, I'm going to write this book. And initially, I was like, I don't have to publish it. I'm just going to write it. But as I was writing it, and I started in this intuition group and started getting connected to my intuition, like I could not ignore my intuition. My intuition was like, this is the right path, publish it, publish it. So I have published it in 2022, and it is a memoir. It covers a 5 year total train wreck period of my life. It starts with my dad passing away. It includes the overdose. It includes me moving to Hawaii. And when I say train wreck, I'm not exaggerating, to the point where I'm actually embarrassed about some of the ways I behaved because all my worst
But
mistakes
you're
and bad
not, because
decisions
you're
are in that
owning
book.
it because you wrote the book. So
Yeah.
you're not ashamed. And that's
Yeah.
one thing that you leading by example. Look, you're owning it.
Yeah, I'm not ashamed of it. It's just really cringy to
Yeah,
write.
yeah, yeah.
But here's the
Train
funny,
wreck.
yeah, but this is the funny thing about vulnerability. It works the opposite way you think it does. Because I thought I was going to get criticized, but I cannot tell you how many people are like, oh, this is so relatable. This has happened to me too. So it just goes to show you that we really do go through shitty things, but that's not what people are posting on Instagram, or most other people aren't writing books about it.
Yeah, people are searching for stories. As humans, we are just natural storytellers. We love stories and
Yeah.
we like relatable stories. Things that,
Yeah.
we're like, oh, I went through that too. Oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And it makes us feel like we're part of something bigger, a bigger picture,
Yeah. And that's
bigger
exactly what I
community.
want people to feel when they read it.
Yeah, that's really lovely. It's a great story, and the fact that you use the book to help you get through the process. Because
Yeah.
writing, and I love writing too. It's a passion of mine, and I think that it's really cathartic to get
Yeah.
everything out of your mind and onto paper.
Well, especially because that was also during the period where I was going through my dark night of the soul. So I didn't want to be around other people. I didn't want to socialize. So writing was the perfect activity.
So let's get to the final few questions then. So, in your experience, how does finding your personal joy and living authentically contribute to the collective consciousness of the planet?
Mm. Yeah, I have a strong opinion on this because there's a lot going on in the world right now. And you can either contribute to the fear and the anger and everything that's going on, or you can contribute to raising the vibration of the universe. And it is super easy to get caught up in the fear and anger, but all it takes is one person, because there's actually science behind this. Like one person radiating love and light affects hundreds and thousands of people. So, and that's another reason why I'm such a big proponent of doing one thing a day that brings you joy, because it's like send that energy out into the universe, because that's the
Yeah.
kind of energy we need right now.
Yeah, stop doom scrolling and watching the
Yeah.
news, right?
Yeah.
Get off the fake social media, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so two final questions I ask all my guests, and that's if you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self, Angie?
I I've gotten various forms of this question, and the answer is I would not say anything because I think I had to go through the lessons I did for a reason. So if anything, I would go back and give my younger self a hug and tell her that I loved her.
Wow, that's great. That's a very unique answer, and I love it. You wouldn't change anything because you
Mm-mm.
had to go through the lessons, yes. But
Yeah,
a
so I would.
hug is
Because
nice.
it's like, like in Back to the Future, like if you go back and say even or do even one thing off, it can change the whole trajectory. So I wouldn't want to change anything. So I would just give her some love.
I love it. And what do you hope your story will inspire in other women who are looking to live a more purposeful and joyful life?
I mean, honestly, I think women are extremely powerful beings energetically. So even though like men can dominate in the workforce or whatever, I think women can really dominate energetically, but we're not awake to our own power, so to speak. So I'm all about empowering women to be like bold, badass, courageous, and like do the things. And like that inspires other people. It puts that energy out into the universe. So yeah, I'm all about empowering women just to do amazing things.
Fantastic. Great way to end the show. A million thanks to Angie for joining me today. Thanks to our audience for hanging out with us. We hope you found it inspiring and empowering, and you'll find all you need to know about both of us in the show notes below. So until next time, this is the Passionate Pioneer and Angie signing off.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Wow, another powerful Passionista conversation. I hope that this guest's journey, experience, and story has inspired something deep within you. Remember, it's about following the joy moments in your life. It's a beautiful dance with the universe. If you would like to dive deeper into your joy journey with me, you will find all the links below this video, including a link to a free workbook that will help you to start your joy journey. And until next time, Passionista, I'll say goodbye. Much love and joy.